to make a few comments on President Trump's speech. This was the first time he addressed the nation since his inauguration speech. As you all know, it was a tremendous controversy because everything that he does is a tremendous controversy. Many of us were disappointed. Many of us were hoping that the announcement was to declare martial law, which would precede him sending troops to the southern border of the country to build the wall. I think what's going on politically now is most unfortunate, but it's bringing the conflict to the surface to the point that I think a lot of people that were not looking at it before are starting to look. There's a serious problem in the government. Brethren, the way government works is that it's negotiation. Everything is negotiation. Not only are there two parties, but each of the representatives and the senators come to Washington defending their own state. They come with agendas, they come with pet projects that they would like money for. And the way it works is that there's a negotiation. You get this and I'll get that, and you take a little bit of less of this and I'll take a little more of that. Everything is negotiation. These Democrats have settled, and their intent is not to run the government or help the people. Their intent is to destroy the president. So it's a standoff at OK Corral. The bottom line is that the president has veto power. So he is not a veto power, or there are certain bills that he has to, or documents that he has to sign into to implement them. One of those documents is the budget, which releases the money. Okay. The House of Representatives determines who gets how much money, and the president signs the check, so to speak. He has to sign the bill that says, okay, I approve. Our whole government is based on opposing sides by negotiation and by fair negotiating, running the government. And these Democrats, Schumer and Pelosi in particular, will not play fair. And Schumer is just amazing when he says about the president that the president is having a tantrum because he can't get his own way. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. All of the fights, all of the sides are supposed to be fighting, okay? A friendly fight, a struggle. All the aspects of the government are supposed to be struggling until they reach a conclusion through negotiation and compromise. There's no such thing as a temper tantrum because you can't get your way. So, President Trump believes, and see, one of the major problems that's going on right now is that we have alternates, at least two sets of facts. Okay? We have, if you've been following politics for a while, we have what's called fact checkers, people that are supposed to check the facts. So, is it not running? Okay. Or did the president tell the truth? Did Nancy Pelosi tell the truth? Did Chuck Schumer tell the truth? Has anybody asked who are the fact checkers? And can you trust the fact checkers? Okay, because it's turning out that the fact checkers are all in the pockets of the Democrats. And you cannot trust the fact checkers. So we have actually two sets of facts. I know at one point I was asking, why are they calling the president a liar, saying he's this terrible liar? What are they talking about? Eventually I found out that the problem is there are two sets of facts. The president is not lying. He's telling you what his set of facts say and what he believes. But the Democrats have another set of facts, so to their point of view, he's lying. Of course, they portray him in a bad light whenever they can, because the truth is he's not lying. The truth is there are two sets of facts, or as Newt Gingrich said, alternate facts. So the question is, do we have a crisis on our southern border? Is it true that human trafficking is out of control and they're bringing people, these gang members are bringing, and drug lords and drug criminals, they're bringing people across our border to either sell them or in the United States or as a launching point for all over the world, I'm told. I find, I go on the internet, I listen to Fox News sometimes. I believe in listening to all sides, but I can't bear, I will not listen to anything that upsets me. And I don't get upset because what upsets me is the lies and the outright attack upon him. I don't think I should subject my emotions to that. I would listen to something upsetting if it's the facts and the truth and I have to face it. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't listen to MSNBC or NBC or CNN because I can't bear the attacks, the viciousness, the viciousness of the spirit coming from the people. But I'm not against listening to both sides. I get my news from the internet, and I listen to many sources. Some sources I stay with, others I reject. I go back and forth. I'm always looking for clues as to the spirit and the motive and the agenda of the people that I'm listening to. And I think that I have some truth. Who knows? I think I have some truth. And I believe that there's a crisis on the southern border. I've seen, of course, everything's photoshopped. You can't believe anything that you see. But some of it is true. So when you have the Spirit of Christ in your heart, and your motive, if it is a true desire for the truth, and you're willing to do the work, because you can't just pick up a newspaper anymore and have the truth, brethren. You have to work to find the truth. That I believe that I have some truth. I'm also trusting Jesus that if I believe something I shouldn't believe, or if I'm wrong, that he will correct me, that I'll get that witness in my heart that I get when I listen to these people berating our president. Aside from the fact that he's Donald Trump, speaking that way about the president of the United States, this is unheard of in the whole, not only in the history of the United States, but I think in all civilized societies. You don't talk about your leaders like that. In a dictatorship, you'd be in jail. In a republic or a democracy, if you did that, you'd be voted out of office. But we have a lot of people in this country, brethren, that are ignorant. Brethren, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with me if you don't want to. The people that support these Democrats, they're only in two categories. Either they have the same evil spirit and they're evil people, or they're ignorant people that they don't realize. They think that they're doing the right thing. They're deceived in their mind. The mind control has taken its place on them, because I don't see how any reasonable person with any semblance of decency could not see what's going on if they're looking. The problem is a lot of people are not looking. See, they voted Democrat their whole life. Their parents voted Democrat, their grandparents voted Democrat, and they really don't want to bother finding out the truth, so they just vote Democrat, and their position, their opinion, defends the Democrats. A lot of good people, what do I mean good people? Decent people, brethren. They go to work every day. They clean their houses. If they're a family, they cook. They take care of their children. Average people that don't want to be bothered with this stuff. But brethren, they're going to have to be bothered with this stuff because we are in a serious cold civil war. And President Trump is doing everything he can to stop it from getting hot. That's what this is all about. So, President Trump wants to build a wall on the southern border because we have checkpoints along the southern border. And if people want to come into the country legally looking for asylum, you find the place on the border where you go through the the American border guards, and you follow the protocol, and you're either given asylum or not given asylum. But there are people that want to come in illegally. So there are miles and miles of border of our southern border with Mexico, where there's no barrier, there are no guards, there's nothing. They just swim across the river, and drugs are pouring into the country. We have an opioid epidemic in this country. Brethren, I have a message for today. I have a spiritual message for today. I don't know how long the Lord wants me to take with this, because you do need this education also. Brethren, the people, the citizens have to wake up. The world has changed. Evil powers have captured the governments of the world, and they're operating through the secret services of America, Great Britain, Australia, and the other European nations. Nations that I've been taught are our allies, our friends. And the CIA in Britain's M6, and I don't know the names, what they're called, the Five Eyes, the Secret Service, or the CIA equivalent of 5 Western nations. They're called the Five Eyes, and they exchange information. They have fallen into evil hands. And God raised up President Trump. Well, more than that, I don't want to. It's very important to me that I acknowledge the unnamed patriots in this country and all over the world that recognize the evil. Brethren, there's no more Republican or Democrat. There isn't any more conservative or liberal. Either you're in the camp of the evil ones, or you're in the camp of the Lord Jesus Christ. Anybody that's neutral is in the camp of the evil ones, whether you know it or not. That's who you are. And there's an incredible struggle between good and evil, or righteousness and evil, going on in the world today. So this human trafficking, it's, I don't have a word to describe it, brethren, that people are stolen. They're stolen, women and children mostly, but I think boys too. They're stolen, they're tied up, their mouth is taped, and they're sold. They're not even sold on the slave market. They're not even sold as a household servant. They're sold for the purpose of torture or human sacrifice. What do you call this? Evil isn't even strong enough. So President Trump wants to stop it. He wants to stop it worldwide. He's already taken moves to stop it worldwide. I understand thousands have been arrested, and many children found in cages have been released. All of these people that I call ignorant, I mean, they would just say that you're crazy. But I'm not crazy. It's happening. And the country has to wake up. The ignorant people, everyone that has the potential to make a righteous decision and say, well, that's wrong, it has to stop. They have to wake up, because they're supporting the evil ones, and the evil ones are taking full advantage of them. Just me preaching this and you listening to it is joining our vibration, joining our spirit to what is the right word? To the collective power that is of righteousness that is taking on this evil. To say there's nothing you can do about it is a mistake. Believing the truth places your spiritual resources in the camp of the Lord Jesus Christ. You've got to face it. So, unfortunately, some people are saying, well, why didn't President Trump get his wall? Well, I hope that I made that point. I believe President Trump, that the researchers, the people that do the research that say the solution to the problem is a wall, and that walls have worked wherever they've been erected. Walls have been erected for centuries. That's what the Great Wall of China is. There was a wall around Jericho. Walls have worked for centuries. We need a wall. So why didn't President Trump get the wall and the Democrats? But I didn't finish my position. I want to thank all the patriots, the military, the United States military, that saw that there had been a coup in the country, and my understanding is if they did not interfere, Barack Obama would have declared himself a dictator. I always wondered why he didn't do it. I'm told that the Joint Chiefs of Staff told him that if President Obama actually signed the executive order that gave him the authority to suspend the Constitution and make himself dictator. And the Joint Chiefs of Staff told him if he did it, they would arrest him. That there was a provision in the Constitution for them to arrest him, and they would arrest him. So he didn't do it.
You said Trump.
Did I say Trump? Obama, oh, thank you. Yeah, that was Obama, thank you very much. They told him that they would arrest him if he did it. So he didn't do it, but he left the executive order in place so that Hillary could do it. The problem is Trump was elected, and now Trump has that power. But you see, a lot of people were really, I'm sorry if I'm jumping around, Lord, please help me make this coherent. A lot of people, including me, were very disappointed that he did not declare a national emergency and say he was going to use those powers to put that wall up. Brethren, President Trump is doing everything in his power to work within the limits of the law. Declaring a national emergency to override the power of the Congress is a radical method. It should be the absolutely last resort. President Obama used similar methods, not declaring a national, well, he did declare a national emergency. We're still in the national emergency that, actually, I think President Bush declared it. Most citizens don't even know we've been in a state of soft martial law since 9/11. But President Obama, he's the one that said, I have a pen and a what did he say, a pen and a phone. Well, that's not how we do business and run the government in this democratic republic, that you can't get the Congress to do what you want, so you just do it anyway. But President Obama did it all the time. President Trump does not want to do that. He is the exact opposite of what they're saying about him. And I'll tell you, brethren, that's my understanding of God's position. And I've told you this before. The Lord will, it's not likely, I can't tell you what he will or will not do, but it's not likely that he will override the natural process as long as it's functioning. Right now, he has raised up this group of generals and patriots throughout the FBI and the CIA and all of the agencies. I think there are a lot, like 16 or more secret agencies. I didn't even know that. So there are patriots and there are treasonous enemies of the state in all of these agencies and throughout the State Department and throughout the whole government. There are both sides. So there are patriots doing whatever they can do, leaking information or doing whatever they're doing. But when Obama was president, there was very little they could do. So the Lord raised up President Trump. He's working through the existing system. It is an absolutely radical last resort to override the government. Don't be upset with President Trump. He knows what he's doing. He's not alone. There's a coalition of patriots that are hearing from God. Don't be upset with him. It's a radical thing to overthrow the authority. It's rebellion. See? Now, if God honors the rebellion, well, then you're okay. But if God doesn't honor the rebellion, you're in trouble. And I've given you my testimony. I don't want to take the time to give it to you again, but I gave you that testimony when I was on the board of my condominium. And the Lord told me to resist the president who was stealing from the condominium. And at the time, I did not understand how to go about doing that. So I did it in the only way I knew how, which was to outright rebel against her. And then I reaped what I sowed. And when I became president, they rebelled against me. It was a very important lesson that I learned. Maybe President Trump didn't declare the national emergency because God didn't tell him to do it yet. It's a radical act. It's a serious act. It's an act of likened unto civil war. It's very serious. And then once you start it, it becomes easier and easier. If he declares the national emergency to build the wall on the border, then it becomes easier to do it for another reason and another reason and another reason. Very, very, very bad idea unless it's absolutely necessary. And apparently, our president didn't think it was necessary a couple of days ago when he gave his speech. So why did he give that speech? See, the patriots, the average people like you and me, we're patriots, and we're believing and studying and preaching, but we don't have any actual power over the government. So from that point of view, we're bystanders. But our thoughts and our mind and our spirit and our prayers make us participants in this cold civil war. Okay. What are asking, why did he do that? Because President Trump didn't say anything that those of us that are awake and on the internet and know what's going on, he didn't say one thing that we haven't been hearing for months, if not longer than that. Why did he do that? Get us all excited and then disappoint us? Well, brethren, I only know what I see with my eyes. And this is what I see with my eyes. President Trump his speech was broadcast on all the main broadcast news channels. Well, Sheila, does that surprise you? Yes. MSNBC, CNN, all of them, they actually considered not broadcasting his speech. The President of the United States, they actually considered not broadcasting his speech. They're treasonous. In my opinion, they should all be arrested, and maybe they will be. You can't do everything at once. You can't arrest everybody at once. Brethren, I'm going to, if Lord, please, I have a whole message to preach today, but if this is what you want me to talk about, I will. I'm torn, this message or my spiritual message. Brethren, President Trump does not want public trials at this time. I would like public trials. I would like to see the criminals in our government tried on television for the whole world to see. I, brethren, would like to see public executions as long as they're legal executions of people found guilty according to the law. And in my entire life, I cannot imagine myself even ever thinking that I would want to see a public execution. That's how evil these people are, in my estimation. So the people that run the broadcast news are traitors. There's this category of our fellow citizens that actually believe everything they hear on the news. Because there was a time when the news was honorable, when journalism was honorable, and you could trust them. They were investigative reporters. They would do the work for you. They would investigate and report on their fair conclusions. But that kind of journalism is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. They're all arms of the Democratic Party, which are communists, and worse than that, they're Nazis, they're Satanists. It's very unreal. So why did President Trump give that speech? Because the Lord moved on his behalf, and all of these stations broadcast his speech. People that would never turn on Fox News heard the president on CNN and MSNBC. He looked very presidential to me. I thought his presentation was very good, okay? But then there was a rebuttal. These people that are asleep that are not doing their own homework, that are just believing everything they hear on broadcast news, saw the president for 10 minutes, and then they saw Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in contrast. I'm hoping, brethren, that a lot of people that are decent at their heart, many of them Christians, were able to see the contrast. Of course, they both said completely opposite things. This is a very serious conversation, but I have to bring some levity in, because my opinion of what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer look like is humorous. And I'm not coming from any position where I'm pro-Trump and trying to put them down. My honest opinion was that they looked like members of the Addams family. So it wasn't just me, because it's all over the news and the internet, that how strange they looked and how strange their delivery was. So I believe some of the people, some of our fellow citizens who were still sleeping, woke up. At least something went off in their brain saying something's wrong here. Brethren, unless we're completely blinded and live in a cloud, everybody makes assessments of the people. You meet someone new, you look at them, you have an opinion of them. President Trump got on to the mainstream media, and they actually fell into his trap. Pelosi and Schumer actually fell into his trap and contrasted themselves against him for the whole world to see, for anyone who wanted to look. And it's all over the internet. You can still look and see the difference in what they have to say. Now, I think that I have the ability to be neutral. But of course I have a sane mind. I have the mind of Christ. I have a sane mind, so I don't know about everybody else. But if I didn't know anything at all that was going on, and I heard President Trump's speech about the human trafficking and the drugs and the crimes, etc., etc., and then I heard Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, I would say, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous that you will not negotiate with him even on the amount of money. They will not give him $1. I think at one point Nancy Pelosi said she'd give him $1. Negotiation goes, his president's experts told him that he needs $5.7 billion to do the job. They haven't even said, well, we'll give you $1 billion or $2 billion. Nothing, maybe $1, that's all she'll give him. That's like unheard of. That's a political play. That is not normal. They're supposed to be negotiating. Now, if I was an outsider looking in and I heard both speeches, I would say, well, okay, Nancy and Chuck, you don't believe that there's a border crisis. Or if you do believe there's a border crisis, you don't believe that a wall is the solution for the crisis. Okay. But the president does. So, find some place in the middle. How do you tell the President of the United States, no, zero, nothing, period, you cannot have your wall? We believe that a wall will not do the job, and therefore we completely contradict you, the President, and there's no negotiation. What? What? What are you talking about? You're supposed to be implementing the president's policies. The issue is just how much money. But to say, no, you will not have a wall. What? So I hope that there are some of our fellow citizens that are waking up, even if they don't understand it the way I'm saying it. Something's stirring in their heart and their mind, because something is very, very, very wrong in the country. And now, so Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, now the government is partially shut down, and there are hundreds of thousands of people that will not get their paycheck this week, and people on food stamps will not be getting food stamps. So Chuck and Nancy are they're trying to blackmail the president, saying, how can you not give these people their salaries and these people food stamps? How can you do that? They're believing that there'll be such an outrage from the people that he will have to back down, and then he just can't build the wall. And to protect our country. Why don't they want to protect our country? Because they're enemies of the state and are part of the coup to destroy our country. So if you can't believe that, nothing makes any sense to you. See? Now this is very interesting, that President Trump said he would let it go weeks and months if necessary. Now that's very interesting to me, and there was one session where Trump was meeting with Nancy and Chuck, and the president had the cameras there, had the news media there, and they were very upset, Nancy and Chuck, that the president had the cameras there. See? And I don't remember what was said to the president, but I remember his response, I don't threaten. In other words, a threat, brethren, is when you try to frighten somebody or alarm somebody by saying that you're going to do something, but you know you'll never do it. That's a threat. Him saying, I never threaten, meaning if I say that I might shut down the government, I might do it, I just haven't decided yet. But he said, I'm not threatening you, I will do it if I have to. See? So, I don't believe the president was lying when he said that he would shut down the government for weeks or months if necessary. And I have a question in my mind. How he must know something that I don't know. How do you tell hundreds of thousands of people they're not going to get their paycheck? And all the people on food stamps that they're not going to be fed? He must know something that I don't know. If he doesn't threaten, he must know something that I don't know for him to say that. I don't know what the answer is. So, since Nancy and Chuck have taken this hard line, the president is refusing to sign any bill that the House draws up the bill, then they send it to the Senate. If the Senate approves it, it goes to the president and he has to sign it. So the Republicans have the majority in the Senate. Probably the Senate wouldn't even look at any of their bills, but if they do, President Trump won't sign it. So the government is at a complete standstill. The answer is compromise. But Nancy and Chuck won't compromise. Kept playing hardball, playing unfairly, believing that Trump will not continue with this partial shutdown because of the outrage of people that will not get paid. And they're prepared if he declares a national emergency and sends the, I don't know what the name is, but there's a particular corps, a part of the military, where their whole job is that they build bridges. They're a construction team, which is a part of the military, and they're supposed to be very good. He would send them in, they'd build that wall in a short period of time. They say if he does that, they'll take him to court, but that's an interesting question, because can the courts actually stop the military? The courts have no authority over the military.